crept the asshole on the 14th floor where the bathroom door don't lock. So happy we don't gotta worry about the cops. We could all get arrested for this, but when the body's mixed, I don't give a shit tonight. Alright. Now she walks in the bedroom fast, despite all the noise from the crowd. Nazi spit the sound of bathroom sink. Her mother would be so proud. Gets on the deed and there's a line to go pee, but the bathroom looks like a war zone.
Welcome in to episode 138 of Phired Up. Check us out at fireupsports.com. I'm Mike Giletto. Joining me is Mark Ramos tonight. Dom and Chris are on sabbatical apparently. The Philly sports world is crashing down right now, and those two bail. What's going on, Mark?
Nothing much, man. The Philadelphia sports scene right now, it's set ablaze. Like people are they're fighting in the streets. It's chaos here. It's anarchy.
We're gonna turn into Vancouver 2012. Was it 2012? 2011, 2012? What year was that? Where they just set the city ablaze?
Yeah, it was 2011. Yeah.
11, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, listen, it's funny because like when I was planning to do the show, it was gonna be like 95% Eagles. Talk about how much I think this team's gonna get destroyed in the playoffs. It was just gonna be 45 minutes to an hour of me just bitching and moaning about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not even mad at the Philadelphia Eagles anymore. I will be in a little bit, but I'm not because an hour or two before we hop on here, I'm scrolling on the gram, scrolling on the Instagram, and I see Flyers trade Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale in a second. And me, I'm not really a gullible person. At least I don't think so. I thought it was like a fake account trying to dupe me. I was like, this is made up. This is fake. Clicked on the account. It's a real Philadelphia Flyers account. I was like, what the hell's going on? So yeah, they traded Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale in a second. There's a lot to this story, though. There's a lot to this story to talk about.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like I'm looking online, I'm on Twitter and things like that, and I'm scrolling past and I have to do a double take. And then I went on Facebook to try to also check there to see
Confirm
on
two
different. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is real. And just also in the fact that, right, the Flyers are in this mix here for the playoff race, and a lot of us didn't think they'd be here, but here they are. Game against the Penguins tonight. It's a big divisional game, and then here comes this bombshell trade, and we're already a couple minutes into this hockey game.
I was gonna say it's like during the game or just when it starts, right around that time. Yeah,
yeah, and I mean, it's crazy to think that this just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. No. I mean, you see players in the NHL on occasion, NCAA players that opt to go to the NCAA and play collegiate hockey. Sometimes when they do, every now and again you'll see a guy kind of he'll walk away from the team that drafted him and go somewhere else. But it's really rare that a player who kind of has the draft pedigree, like a 5th overall pick in a draft, and then to see the swap of two really good, Jamie Drysdale's nothing. You could do a lot worse than Jamie Drysdale for the Flyers. And so this was a really interesting pick. Apparently Cutter didn't want to play here. And this is something that goes back to last summer. And as we kind of peel back the layers of the onion here, we're finding out more. And, Cutter Gauthier, public enemy number 1 in Philadelphia now.
Yes,
for sure.
Correct. Cutter Gauthier is dead to me. Absolutely dead to me. You don't want to play in Philadelphia. I don't know what your reasoning is. I'm sure maybe you'll find out, maybe we won't. But he's dead to me. You don't want to play in Philly. Have fun in Anaheim, where They're constantly in bottom 5 in the league. They can never get out of the mud. Have fun rotting there. Sure, you're going to be able to hit the beaches every day of the year. That's fine. I know that's what you want to do. I know he's got a gigantic ego, and that's all he cares about right now is himself. He's dead to me. I want nothing to do with Color Gochi. And also, this comes like 3 or 4 days after I tweeted about how excited I was to watch Color Gochi with Matt Michkov, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, of course, he comes off the part of Team USA in the World Championship, the World Junior Championship, and they win gold. Team USA wins gold, and he was a big part of that. And and that's kind of why he was. It's ironic because his name was in the news a little bit in hockey circles prior to this, and now we're talking about him for completely other reasons. But yeah, it's really interesting to kind of look into why. Like why,
I have two theories. The first one that I did hear a lot is the Torts angle, and maybe he don't want to play for Torts. I mean, he's a BC guy. There is an age gap, but I wonder how much Kevin Hayes keeps in touch with those guys from BC. Like maybe he got in his ear. Like that's kind of one thing that I go to. And then the other is, did he want to sign after his college season last year? And they talked him into going back to college, and maybe that pissed him off. Like those are the two theories I have.
Yeah, and those are probably the most out more forward ones.
Yeah,
I can't really think of any other ones other than the fact that this is such a great sports town, and to come in here and he would have been coming in here with big time expectations. Him along with Michkov, they would be two of the guys that we'd expect to help push this team to the next level. And now that he's no longer, a part of the solution here, it's for the reasoning that he allegedly I can't think of a more unprofessional way to go about this. If you're him and his camp, he's also represented by an agent and all. Someone has to be in his ear to tell him this isn't the way to go about this. And he pretty much ghosted the Flyers. That's just unprecedented. You just don't hear stuff like that. And if it was about the coaching or a relationship with a player like Kevin Hayes or whatever, and then you know what? I don't want you here anyway. You probably
all you need to know about the player. Yep.
You probably weren't cut out to make it here anyway. And as you said, pressure's off at Anaheim. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to I'm sure it matters to some people, but for the most part, I don't think it matters to the city of Anaheim if the Ducks are competitive or not competitive. But it certainly matters if the Flyers are competitive in Philadelphia. So,
have fun with Trevor Zegers hanging out with TikTok influencers. If that's the life you want to live, have fun.
Yeah.
Not going to win a damn thing in Anaheim.
Yeah. So, he'll be, I'm thinking about buying a ticket when the Ducks come to Philadelphia. Number one, I'm going to really, I'm going to get my voice all nice and clear the night before. And just boo the hell out of this kid when he comes here. I'm also thinking maybe a Ty Domi type of thing. Maybe he takes some minor penalty. Maybe I jump in the penalty box and start rumbling or something.
There you go. I don't think he can take it. I don't think so. Because the thing that's kind of crazy about it, it's not like he was a mediocre player. He hasn't played a minute in the NHL, and he was already a fan favorite here. The fans loved him. They couldn't wait for him, and it feels like we're 6 months to a year into a new relationship with this girl we're infatuated with, right? But and then we get stabbed in the heart, right? We just get absolutely broke. Our heart's broken right now. It sucks. And listen, they're getting a good player, I think, in Jamie Drysdale. There's question marks there. The injury thing, I think, is a real concern. But if he hits and if he becomes what his full potential could be, this is kind of what Jonesy has been talking about since he got in. He wanted to build a defense, start from the defense, and they really didn't have a true number one young defenseman. And Jamie Drysdale is not a number one defenseman yet, but I don't think Cam York is. I don't think he's I don't think he's really that guy. He's playing really well, granted, but I don't think he's that guy. I think Jamie Drysdale's a legit top pair defenseman if he reaches the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's a really tantalizing player to add to your mix. And it's hard. It's hard to find smooth skating defensemen that can quarterback the power play, right-handed. It's hard to find those guys. And now that you have one who's got NHL experience and is a little
bit sorry, I cut you off. Granted, only played 18 games in the last 2 seasons.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so there's there are injury concerns there for sure. And the talent's the talent. And as long as it sounds as if he's healthy now, and he'll get every opportunity to be the guy that people thought he was when he was taken 6th overall.
And that's the thing I'm kind of a little optimistic about is the fact that like this injury this year isn't related to the one last year. Right? Last year he got hurt in like early on. I think 8 games into the season he tears his labrum. Done for the season. This year's lower body injury kept him out, a handful of weeks, but unrelated. So it's not like a same nagging injury, right? Like it's just a couple of fluke things. He's 21 years old. He's got his entire career ahead of him. Maybe there's just a couple of fluke injuries that happen early in his career, and we can kind of forget about it.
Yeah, we can forget about it and move on, and so that part's exciting. And plus, you had the Flyers added a 2nd-round pick.
Yep.
And it's another bite at the apple, another swing there on draft day, which for this team right now, having the futures is important. And it was a good deal. It was a good deal. I think the Flyers really handled this in a professional manner. As well as
they've known for months.
Yeah,
they kind of kept it under the radar.
Yeah, to protect this kid, to protect Cutter Gauthier from the storm that would have faced him. Had this come out earlier, you don't want to tank his value in a trade market.
Yep.
So they did a good job with this, and it's a really nice, if you were on the fence about Danny Briere before, I think like this was a point for him. It was a nod of optimism here for me for Briere, because this was really well done. He handled this really professionally.
Oh, totally. For sure. It's just, again, it's just like kind of a gut punch,
Yeah.
So everybody's so excited about Cutter, especially coming off the World Juniors. We're watching him.
Yeah.
I thought he played pretty well. He had some moments here or there.
Yeah.
Especially away from the puck that I didn't love, that I wanted to see him work on when he got here, but guess I never will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. I guess the other question, when should we assume Drysdale to play? I assume the next game, maybe the next couple games, should slide in here at some point.
Yeah, I would think he would jump in a couple games. They might want to get him some. I think January in general is a busy month for the Flyers. So, and they're going to play some good teams. So like right away he'll get we'll see him up against some good teams, and yeah, I would imagine a couple games in, maybe they'll want to get a couple practices under his belt. But once they do that, it'll be interesting to see how the defense pairs shake out.
Who gets sent down at this point? Like, who's the odd man out?
I would think it would be like Nick. I want to say Nick Seeler. I know that he's played well all year long.
They like Nick Seeler. Like, they
do like Nick Seeler. So
Zamula maybe, but Zamula's not playing bad. Like,
no, and then they're using him on the top power play unit. So it's you're kind of changing the mix. Other than maybe they're going to put Drysdale in that spot, because that's one of his best assets is running a power play. So
I think you'll see him get some power play time. I don't know about power play one time, but I think you'll see it.
Yeah, and the Flyers have literally the worst power play in the NHL.
Right.
They have more shorthanded goals than they do power play goals this year, and that is a fact.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And
I guess it's good that you're shorthanded.
It's good in one, it's good in one way, one aspect. But the power play is atrocious. Just to be blunt about it, and they need help there. So to have somebody who's like such a natural on it, it'll be a nice that'll be a nice boost hopefully to it, even if it bumps it up a couple spots.
Yeah, so they play Wednesday at home against Montreal, and
Yep.
then Friday in Minnesota. So maybe we see one of those games. Then Saturday in Winnipeg. So
Yeah.
maybe one of those games we'll see him for the Flyers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'm confused. I'm angry. I have so many emotions right now.
Yeah, it's the same, and and we didn't even talk about the Eagles yet.
Yeah, exactly. And the Flyers are losing to the Penguins to add salt to the wound.
Yeah, that's no good.
No.
So,
you got anything else about the Flyers before we move on to the Eagles? This comment's probably a good segue here.
Yeah, right. Just thanks, Steve. You're just right out there. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Well, we're out of here. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's kind of move on to the Birds. I mean,
all right.
I was such a pathetic performance on Sunday against the Giants. Yeah. Didn't come out at all. I mean, when's the last time a team's going into the playoffs? We're heading into the playoffs, and 95% of the fan base wants every coach fired. Like, it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
No, it really doesn't. And I mean, and with good reason too. It's not like it's coming out of
right.
It's not like it's coming out of nowhere. I mean, this has been, to think that this team was 10-1 at any point, this season, and maybe there was more importance than I'll say for myself. I can't speak for the whole fan base, but it's I was kind of like, all right, they're winning ugly, but they're winning. And then it was but it really, looking at where they are now and how down everybody is on them, justifiably so. And coming into this game where you got to go on the road to Tampa for the wild card round. And, you're in a position where 10-1 at some point, you're winning. So you take it. But it's it is important how you win and lose.
Yeah.
And that's important now when you lose 5 of your last 6 in the fashion in which they have.
Right. You have the Giants twice in there. You got the Cardinals, the Seahawks, not great teams down the stretch.
No. And I was thinking, I think I was thinking about this as, and I actually think I replied to one of your tweets about it, and it kind of felt like everything was coming apart once they lost that game in Seattle. But really, I think if I had to go back and kind of pick out a moment, it was probably getting punched in the mouth by San Francisco here, in Philly, and just kind of taking it. They just kind of got, just completely ambushed in that game. And I mean, that game meant, the Niners had been waiting all year for that, and it was personal for them. It was personal. And, for a lack of a better term, the Eagles just kind of laid down like a bunch of dogs and took it.
Yeah, I mean, was it Nick Bosa that said we gave the rest of the NFL the blueprint to beat the Eagles? And it seems like that's exactly what happened. They've just done nothing but lose since then.
Yeah. And I mean, and now there's stuff out here, it's hard not to address everything when you consider all the outside noise, right? Because there's so much of it. And this always seems to happen in I don't know if it's I don't know if this falls a little bit on how he's played or what, but it's things start to go sideways and then all these reports start go flying. And it's I'm just thinking to myself, I'm for the Eagles front office, what kind of ship are you running over here? Where all this stuff's just leaking everywhere, where, we know all this bad behind the door gossip about, I mean, it was just out there that, Jalen and AJ were riffing it in the Seattle game, with the play calling. They weren't kind of, I guess they weren't, was it that they weren't following the play, or, well, I think it was an audible. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
I forget exactly. Yeah. We talked a little bit about that last week about the leaks and kind of things like that. And Dom was under the impression that he thinks it's solely just Howie just leaking shit out to make himself look better. Like,
That would,
take the blame away from me. It's these guys' fault. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
It's it's interesting. I would love to see an investigative piece on that, where those are coming from, because it's just, and it seems like it happens every so many years with them. I just can't.
yeah. Oh yeah, I
And,
mean the last time was the Alshon Jeffrey Carson Wentz
yeah,
thing, and then before that you had the, you know, I forget, it was either Chris or Dom that brought up last week. Like, you had Chip Kelly, you know, that was, you know, the who had all the power, and how he just kind of tucked away in the closet, and that like rumor came out of nowhere, is that he just kind of got pushed to the side. Well, who's
yeah,
leaking that information out? Like,
right,
who's the one to gain from that? It's Howie Roseman. Like, I think there's
right,
some truth to that.
yeah. And I mean, it's just, I just don't know. It's just not like, it's just detrimental to the whole entire process. And
Yeah,
and I don't know, you know, like, depending on what happens on Monday, uh, you know, it, you lose that game. I mean, I can't see a scenario where they don't just clean house with the coaching staff.
yeah.
It feels like it's a little bit deeper than that. It's equal parts personnel, um, and coaching for me. I can't
I
look at
agree
it.
with that. I agree with that on the defense. I think the offense, I think there's talent all over the field. I think the
Yeah,
offensive coordinator is a big issue.
yeah,
And Sirianni's to blame with that, because he's like supposed to be the offensive guy that has his hand involved in the offense, and the offense's weapons all over the field. The quarterback who was, you know, an MVP candidate last year. So I mean, they should have results on offense. But
yeah,
the defense, I agree with you. The personnel, I think, is an issue. Linebacker, they didn't address. They don't have the same, you know, rotation of defensive linemen that they did last year. So I think these guys are gassed. They're young, especially Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Um, so yeah, personnel, I think, on defense is huge.
yeah, yeah. And so I mean, we'll see where that goes. I mean, after Monday, because it's like, I know that it's hard to envision, but I wonder how much it changes anything if you win in Tampa and then have to go down to San Fran. I mean, you're probably going to get walloped down there. I mean, like,
You sure are,
it's,
yeah. Yep.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably going to get smoked, and it's
I
just
don't
like,
I don't know how much it changes. Like, I think Sirianni is safe. Um, Maybe not 100% safe. Like, if they lose by 30, yeah, there's a chance he's gone. If they lose like a hard fought battle, I think they keep him and get rid of the two coordinators and see if they could, you know, fix the, you know, what's going on.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think I think Sirianni's going to be here, and if he's not at that point, when do you question the general manager? Like, when do you question Howie Roseman's safety? Right, like
right.
he's been, what, if this would be, I think this is his fourth coach. Like, how many GMs go through like four coaches? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, yeah, and it's to go back to that. Like, I think, like, I was actually talking to a friend today about it, but it's like, I tend to agree about the Sirianni position, like, about him, like, being safe at least for another year. Like, maybe they swap out the coordinators to say they did something. But then it's like, if you address the coordinator issue, and those, best case scenario, those guys do really well, they take head coaching jobs somewhere else. You're still left with Sirianni here. And then, like, does it happen again where, like, with guys that are like less than stellar at their jobs, it's kind of like this, it's like this endless cycle. And the buck does stop with, like, I don't know that, like, other outlets or places are talking as much about Howie and, like, whether or not, how much blame is on his plate for this. But I mean, it's certainly something that needs to be looked at really closely, because I mean, this is, as you said, four coaches for a GM. And you don't want to fall into that, and I think a lot of teams do. You win a championship and it's a really long time since you've won one. And
Or the
then,
first time ever.
or the first time ever. And you start leaning on people for what they did for you in the past. And as great as that may have been, it then becomes harder to cut ties with those guys. You know what I mean? Like, and it certainly shouldn't give anybody a job for life. That's just the nature of the business. And sometimes things happen. And, so I don't, it's going to be really interesting, I think, to like kind of monitor their situation, because then there's like, well, where do they go then? If they then clean house, with the coordinators and the head coach, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. Do you think 2 weeks ago we talked about it and the answer was no, but like, is it too early to have the conversation of like, was it a mistake giving Jalen that contract? Like, is there a little bit of like buyer's remorse to like give him that deal?
It's like I think there's a little bit.
Yeah.
I think like when you look at I think too, like with Jalen, it's just like, I think in a position with an offensive coordinator where he's working with somebody who like will push him, like he'll be very receptive to that. He seems very like receptive
Yeah.
to being coached hard and things like that. But I mean, like there are some things in his game that just haven't really evolved since he's taken the job.
No.
You know, he seems very, very ready to kind of dip out of the pocket before like stepping up to the next level and like hanging in there and hanging tough. And there's those kinds of things. The decision making's been a little bit all over the place this year. And I mean, there probably is. And I mean, he does kind of like, as the quarterback and a guy that's making that kind of money, he's going to own some of it.
Yep.
That's happening. But, I was so encouraged though last year by his game and what he could be. So
He was awesome. He was awesome last year.
Yeah. And I mean, to do it in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs last year, I mean, that was enough for me to buy him some more rope. So he owns a little bit of it. And there may be a little bit of buyer's remorse there where you're like, maybe it's a little too, maybe it was a little excessive.
Yeah.
But
especially because they didn't really have to do it. Like he still had 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah, that was the other part of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, so, you could have waited a year and then maybe you could have got him for a lesser dollar figure. But
Right.
or
at least see what you had, because like,
yeah,
he was really bad the year before that, or the year before last year, and last year he was awesome. So like, is one fantastic season enough to give a guy a blank check? Like, sure, he was awesome, but that could be the best he's ever going to play.
Right. And then, like looking at like, and then I look at like the rest of the offense, like, not to jump ahead, but
sure, go ahead.
Like to look at the rest of the offense and AJ was spectacular this year. But I mean, I was really kind of disappointed in the year, like a kid like Devonta Smith had, where it just kind of didn't seem like he was involved as much as he should be. And then that comes back to the coordinators and things like that, like scheming.
Still had over 1,000 yards though, right? I believe right around there.
Yeah, it was around that. Yeah. And it was just like, but it kind of felt like to me, like the numbers look good, but it felt like he was like the third or fourth option sometimes. Behind AJ, they were running the ball with Swift, and then, Jalen seems to have a pretty good rapport with Dallas Goedert. Yep. So it was kind of, some nights it felt like he just wasn't really like involved as much as a player of his caliber should be.
Yeah, and when he did throw him the ball, like in big moments, it seemed like Devontae wouldn't come down with the catch.
Right. And that could be, like I know he had said at some point this year, he was asked about that. Yep. And he was like, I just got to catch the damn ball. Like,
right, yeah.
And I love that about him, but it's just like too,
blunt,
I mean, I love that answer, but it's, also like
you got to do it.
You got to do it. And, like when it's probably, I'm sure it's I can't really relate, right? Because I never played in the NFL, if you can't tell.
Makes two of us.
So, I mean, like, yeah, like you look at that and then it's like where it's probably really hard to not, be involved for a quarter and a half. And then all of a sudden they're peppering you with targets. Yeah. Like it's probably, and you got the best, you got some of the best athletes on the field as the defensive backs, and they're all over you. I'm sure that's tough, but I would have liked to have seen him more involved throughout the season, where it kind of just felt like he was kind of like a go-to option for them. And at times it felt like he wasn't. And, that's a small thing. And then, like on the other side of the football, I mean, like it's an odd mix. And then like, as you mentioned, the linebackers, and then like the secondary's been a complete, that's
Mess.
been just a
Yeah.
mess. So, and it's kind of like a weird mix of, young players and vet players. And there seems like it's fine to have that mix, but it seems like the age bracket's very wide. Like they have
Yeah, well, I
players who've
don't.
been around a long time, and then a lot of
Yeah,
young guys.
well, I don't think they expected such a giant drop off from season to season with James Bradbury. Like Bradbury, I mean, he's cooked. He's toast. Like he was really solid last year, and ever since the holding call in the Super Bowl, he hasn't looked the same.
No, no. I mean, I go back to that Seattle game. You look at that last drive where
Yep.
Drew Lock of all people, looks
The
like
drive of his life.
drive of his life. And DK Metcalf had a number of really good catches on that last game winning drive. And I think Bradbury was the guy on him, and I mean he just couldn't keep up, and just couldn't keep up with him,
Yeah.
and it's just, so that's been disappointing. But there's been a little bit of that, I think, because the unit hasn't changed a whole lot. Like, I mean, there's some injection of youth there, but
Well, the big loss is Garner Johnson on the second.
right in the secondary, and then like the defensive line loss.
Well, TJ Edwards in the linebacker, and then you lose Javon Hargrave up front.
Right. And it just feels like you would think, like, losing 3 guys, oh, how much is it going to dramatically alter the mix? But maybe it really did.
Well, this is what I think. This is what they thought is, drafting Jalen Carter kind of falls into your lap, and it's not that big of a drop off from Javon Hargrave to Jalen Carter talent wise. I think that's what they thought. I don't know if it's necessarily true season 1 with Jalen Carter, because there is some sort of adjustment period from college to the NFL. But I think that's what they thought. I think they thought another year of Nakobe Dean, learning and getting better, can kind of take the place of TJ Edwards. We can teach him what TJ Edwards did, and Nakobe Dean just can't stay on the field. So that kind of backfired. And secondary, they just picked a bunch of draft picks, throw it at the dartboard, and see what happened.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And then, I mean, like, coming, like, to not go through game to game here, but then, like, you look at this last game, and I can't think, like, of a better game, like, to kind of epitomize how everybody kind of feels than to watch this game against the Giants. And I get what I get where the idea is coming from, with like running the starters out there. Dallas is in Washington, and it's just like, but you're proud. I mean, you're going to be the 5th seed, if you're being honest, like if you're being honest with yourself, and you're running out like a full-fledged starting lineup at that graveyard of a field at midlife.
Yeah, see, the field is an interesting one. Sidney Brown, I think, is done. Tore something.
Yep, he's
right?
done. Yep.
Yeah, so
he's done.
He's done. But the thing is, on last week's show, I actually said I wanted them to play everybody.
Really?
Not because the game mattered, because Dallas is probably taking care of business in Washington, but because the team has looked so bad. I wanted them to fix things. I wanted them to get reps. I thought that they would take it to the Giants, who stink, get some confidence heading into the playoffs.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Instead, I have less confidence now than I did a week ago.
No, and it's like, I don't even know if it's just about that point, right? Like, I agree, I understand where you're coming from with that. Totally. That makes a lot of sense. It's just like, it goes back to those other games we pointed out, the San Francisco game, the Seattle game, the loss to Arizona. You put yourself in that position.
Sure. And they should have, if Tyrod Taylor plays the entire first Giants game, they probably lose that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were riding the whole Tommy DeVito thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was fun for a couple of weeks. There's always a couple of stories like that throughout the league every year. But yeah, I mean, and it's just like, it's like, I understand like exactly what you said there. Like it makes a lot of sense. And then you come out of the game with like somehow not healthier than you were. You lost the game, so you didn't build any confidence.
Right.
And it's like, and now you're down, like, you know, that secondary can't take at this point in time. They can't take a Sidney Brown out for the year blow to that group, you know. And
is there even any timetable with Slay? I haven't seen a single thing about when he's coming back, if he's coming back.
No, I don't think I have either.
Yeah,
that's been really quiet.
Very.
Yeah, I you know, and so yeah, I mean, it coming into this game, I mean, it can't be any. I mean, morale can't be any lower. I mean, coming into this game, and I had posted something on Twitter about the 1964 Phillies and the fold of 64, which is a legendary, infamous Philadelphia sports lore. You know, the Phillies losing a playoff spot in the final 2 weeks of the season in 1964, and I mean, like, this is the football equivalent of that. I mean, like,
right. The only way it would have been worse is if they like somehow missed the playoffs. Like, if, they still got in, but yeah,
if they missed the playoffs, I mean, that would have been. I can't imagine what would have happened. I mean, like, I can't.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I just can't. It's even hard to imagine, like, being as pessimistic as we all are, and we have a reason to feel that way. But to feel that way, and like to have like a playoff game coming up, just seems so weird.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like just the fact that like it's recency bias and we see it all the time, but like I'm stunned they're road favorites. Like I know Tampa's not great, but how are the Eagles, who just lost to the Giants and the Cardinals, how are they road favorites? It doesn't make any sense. Like something doesn't add up there.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. And I don't know what it is now. They opened up at what? It
was 2.5 last I saw.
2.5? Okay.
Yeah, they were minus the 2.5 last I saw. I could double check.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember what I saw when it opened up. I mean, maybe it was 2.5.
It was somewhere between 1.5 and 2 when it opened.
1.5 and 2. It may have gone up since then. But yeah, I mean, like, and you know, like a team like Tampa Bay.
They're still minus 2.5.
2.5. So, you know, like a team like Tampa Bay is going to come into this and they're going to use that as bulletin board material. And that's the last thing the Eagles need is a motivated Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. I mean, Mike Evans is going to go bananas on this secondary in this game. I don't know how they're going to stop him. And on the flip side, too, it's like I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers have the worst pass defense in the league this year. And it just feels like we can't get anybody open enough.
Nothing. They don't scheme anybody open. They just run the same 4 plays over and over again. There's zero creativity. Like,
can we get rid of some screens too? I mean,
sure,
screen,
yeah.
You know?
Or at least put them in like the playmaker's hands. Like, listen, I love Dallas Goedert. I'm tired of seeing screens to Dallas Goedert. Like, he just doesn't go anywhere. Like, I need somebody with speed to take the ball in open space. Even mix a screen here or there with Covey. Like, try something creative. Try something else. Something different.
He got some offensive snaps there late in the game there.
He made one really nice catch. He got one really nice catch late in that game.
He did.
Like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And he like, I'm sure that was a reward for, you know, being such a like reliable piece of the special teams unit. You know, so, but I mean, yeah, it's, you know, I think when they brought him in, when they brought in Julio Jones and like their first options were to use him in like bubble screens, and he's like the 5th or 6th like fastest guy out of the wide receivers. It's like the worst.
Right, like if this was the year 2013, sure, use him in bubble screens.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he can't do that anymore.
No,
like,
no.
But park his ass in the back of the end zone in the red zone. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Throw it up to him.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm sure he's still good for that, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, there was a couple times there, and I'm like, what do they do? It's like, it just seems so, like, you know, but, I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I, you know, Tampa Bay is, you know, like Baker Mayfield's having, like, this renaissance season.
Playing well, Tampa. Yeah. He hasn't been fantastic, but he's playing really well.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's going to, you know, whether it's in Tampa or somewhere else, he's going to get a bag this year.
Yep.
You know, I believe he's a free agent this summer.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to get paid somewhere. But
I think it makes sense for them to keep him. He's having a good enough season, brought him to the playoffs. He's tried it in other places, hasn't really worked out. I think they found something. They should keep him. He should want to stay.
Yeah, and it's quarterback evaluation's wonky too. It's hard sometimes. You know, it's a slippery slope sometimes. But
well, I think more than any position, I think coach and system matter when it comes to quarterback. Like
sure,
Baker could be playing great this year, go to a new coach, new system, and look awful. Like
right. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's so many, like, it's a lot, like, I think of it, we started the top of the show with Flyers and hockey. It's like, it's much like being a goalie in hockey, or where, like, you get most of the blame when it goes bad. You don't get enough credit when it goes well, but you're going to there's eyes on you at all times.
Right.
And there's so many things that dictate your success or failure at the position, because there's so many other things out of your control that have to, like, work. You could put anybody back there, but if there's not, like, a good offensive line, you're going to get smoked back there all game. Like,
and if receivers can't get open, then there's only so much you could do. If you throw the ball to your receiver and they drop it, you can't do anything about that either.
Yeah, and somehow it's like a reflection on your numbers, like, and
especially if one goes off the tip of your wide receiver's hands and gets intercepted. That's on you.
See that all the time. Yeah. Defensive linemen put their hands up, tip a ball in the air, and it's just, it could have looked great coming out of your hand,
Right. Yep.
So.
Yeah, I mean, how's kind of wrapping up here? How what's your optimism? Your optimist level coming into the game? Do you think they get it done? Are we looking at a loss? And if they do lose, I guess we could kind of go back to the Sirianni argument. Does he keep his job, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I keep going back and forth about it, right? Like, excuse me. I keep going back and forth about it, right? Like, I'm like, this can't, even if I don't think they're a good football team or whatever the case may be, it can't go this bad this long. You're right.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of like where
I think so. Like, at some point, something's got to click, right?
Yeah, I'm asking myself, like,
trying to talk yourself into it.
The days here, and I'm like, it can't look this bad for this long. And I'm, there is offense, there is talent here on this offense. They're due
to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, what a sucker, like, what a sucker I am, and it's just like, but then again, like I said earlier here, and then we were talking about, if you get through this, and then you got to go to San Fran or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh God. Like, I mean, somehow that loss is going to feel worse, especially if you get blown out down there, or, whatever ends up happening. And there's only so much, like, your experience level and things like that, and having quality veterans and guys who've, been in the trenches here and they've won a championship here. Guys like BG and Kelsey and those guys, and
Fletcher Cox and
all. And it's like, yeah, I definitely think that matters, but it's not the whole picture, and it's just like, if you can't overcome some of these other things, a lot of them are fatal issues for this team. And so I think on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably put it at a 4 right now.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, what time is it? It's 9:45. I mean, like, you ask me maybe at midnight, maybe it'll be a 6. I don't know. Like, I just
depends how you're feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. It just depends. Like, if someone asks that's a sliding scale right now. I don't know, but I'll put it at a 4.
I was gonna say, it's gonna change a million times from now until next Monday. Which, by the way, I hate this Monday Night Football playoff game. I can't stand it since they started that. A couple years ago. I don't like it at all. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not a fan either. And I don't think of it as like playoff football, like a Monday night. I think about it just looks
wild card weekend. Yeah, wild card weekend, like the games on during the day there, on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, I mean, it's that's where I would have it at. Where are you at with it?
Like a -4.
-4.
Yeah, I have zero confidence. Like, it's like, I said, it sucks to having a Monday Night Football game, but the good thing is, unfortunately, the Eagles will be down by 30 at halftime, so I can go to bed nice and early.
Yeah.
No, the thing is, like, I have zero confidence in the offense. I have zero confidence in the defense, but the Buccaneers aren't great.
Yeah.
But I just saw them lose games to the Cardinals and Giants when their backs should have been against the wall. I know they literally weren't, but like
Yeah.
they should have had a back against the wall mentality, and they put their tail between their legs. So
Yeah.
I don't think this team. I don't think they have confidence. I don't think they have much heart right now. They look like, if you see the look on like Sirianni's face, it's a guy that looks defeated.
I actually said this today to a
Yeah.
friend of mine about that, and it's funny that you brought that up because I'm always like making jokes. I'm like, oh, body language expert over
Yeah,
here.
he looks defeated. He looks worn down. He looks beat up.
Yeah, I mean, he looked completely like he had no answers.
No answers, none.
Yeah.
So that's why my confidence is so low, because I don't think they know how to fix it. And again, when they should have had the back against the wall mentality, they lost to the Cardinals and Giants, right? Like they lost to bad teams down the stretch. The Bucks, while they have their flaws and aren't great, are better, I know for a fact, than the Cardinals and the Giants. I think they lose pretty bad on Monday. I do.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be, and like you mentioned, those teams are like the teams they've lost to recently. Those aren't good teams, and the Buccaneers are better than those teams.
Yeah,
so
right.
I mean, even though the Bucks aren't a great team,
No,
they're still better than the Cardinals. They're still
Yep.
better than the Giants, and so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, like, but I can't blame anybody. I can't blame anybody for feeling that way.
yeah.
And
It's just, it's so like, I don't know if funny is the right word, but like 5-6 weeks ago, we're talking about the number one bye. Like, oh, we're gonna have home field advantage. It's gonna be awesome.
yeah,
And now I have them losing by 30 to Tampa Bay in a wild card game.
yeah. Too. It's like, with that, like, you look at where they were last year, and then like, there's like these expectations that come with that, right? Like, it's just you're in you get to a Super Bowl that a lot of people felt like you should have won, and we felt like, man, was it Gannon? Was it we talked about the field, like there was all these what ifs, but it felt like, man, you come back next year, this group didn't really change that much. And it's just like, I can't remember a team. I'm trying to think of a team that kind of just fell so woefully short of expectations in Philly sports as much as this team, considering where they were
short of
last
expectations. I mean, do you put last year's Phillies in there? Like, not 2 years ago Phillies, because I don't think anybody expected them to do anything, and they made it to the World Series and had,
Right.
They played a great Astros team. But like last year, people, I mean, you're up 3-2 to Arizona, who you're clearly better than,
Right.
and you lose that series. Like, do you put it up there with that? I don't know if that's not even. I don't know.
No, I mean, that's a good one. I would think that was a good one.
Yeah.
Any of these Sixers teams.
Yep.
Couple Sixers teams. 2019 Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of. It's tough when you have, like, it's the worst thing. It's the worst and best thing in sports as a fan, is having expectations, because it's just like you come into it and everything's so you're looking at it so closely, and yeah, I mean, like, for it to look as bad as it's looked, and for the people in charge to not look like they have a clue of how to fix it, is pretty concerning.
Well, I guess that's why we love sports, right? Any given Sunday, they
given
can come
Sunday.
out. They could come out, or any given Monday, I guess. But
Any given Monday,
they could come out and win, and all is right in the world.
My first thought, Mike, about this too was like, I think it's MLK Day.
Monday it is.
Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I was like, and my fiance and I, we both have off, and the first thought I was like, oh my God, they're going to ruin the holiday. They're going to ruin my day off.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit around all day thinking about this game that's not happening until the nighttime.
Yep.
And I'm going to, if they get their doors blown off, I'm going to have to sit there and then get myself ready to go to work the next day.
Well, exactly. They're going to wake up Tuesday morning miserable.
Yeah. Or I'm going to talk myself and be like, we'll have to come on here again. I'm like, you think they could beat the Niners in Tampa?
Yeah, exactly. So that's my next question. Say they do find a way to win against Tampa, and they go to play San Francisco, and theoretically, because the whole show we kind of been talking about Sirianni's job and if it's safe. Say they lose in the second round to San Fran by like 30 plus. Do you think Sirianni's job's safe there, or do you think they still look at kind of making a change?
Like my first thought is just like I kind of try to think about not even just Howie, but like how Jeffrey Lurie has handled business in the past, and the Eagles have always kind of seen a little bit like more. They seem a little bit more reserved, like in terms of like they don't like hustle to make those decisions. They don't axe people right away. There's usually
Chip Kelly, but that was a whole different issue. There was so much more going on with that. But yeah, I agree.
Right. I think of like, when Reed was here, I think it felt like, Reed should have been let go 2.5 seasons.
It was time. Yeah, it was time when he did get let go.
So it's felt like that in the past. And I guess, that'll be a real insight into how dire they think the situation is. Like if they come in and they just like clean house on Tuesday, if they lose, it's like, wow, they must really find this to be like a big issue.
Yeah.
If they were to go down there and just get like they were to win this game Monday and then come back and get smoked in San Fran, I don't know how much that changes it. I do think I really do genuinely think they're going to try to patch it, bring in some other coordinators.
I agree. I think you have to, at the very least, you got to get rid of the offensive and defensive coordinators, get new guys.
Yeah, I feel. Least. Yeah, I think that's going to happen because we've seen all throughout the year. We've been told all year. Right. How many times this season have like Fox or CBS or, Channel 10 camera crews catch Eagles players on the sideline, just like giving it to coaches or like them looking like arguing, and they're like, oh, that's not what it looked like. But I think it was what it looked like. I think you guys are really, and
when is a 10-2, 10-3? I forget the record of the time when they did it, but when is a team with 10 wins, demote their defensive coordinator? Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that you would have to think, in a situation like that there was some real internal strife.
Sure, yeah.
There that if you're making a change like that, and then like as we said at the beginning of the topic, like talking about this, somehow Howie's just leaking it to McLean and these other guys, and just like, oh, hey, me, I'm not
right. Yeah,
like, I don't know. I run the office up here. I don't know what they're doing down there. Like, so I think that's going to be their first like course of action is to try to patch it for a year or two, and but then like if you don't want it to snowball into a bigger issue where just like Sirianni's just this has become too much of an issue where the guy seems like a total incompetent, which I
think the most logical thing they do is keep Sirianni, get 2 new coordinators. If we're having the same sort of conversations next season, then he's gone. I think they give him 1 more year.
Yeah, and then it goes back to that's again like that roundabout way of like if you bring in 2 guys that are great coordinators, they're probably going to get poached from to go somewhere
revolving
else.
Door. Yeah.
Yeah,
and if you need great coordinators to have success, then you're clearly not a great coach. Not that I don't know that anybody's calling Sirianni a great coach, but there's issues there. If you need to have 2 great coordinators to be successful, there's a problem there.
Right, and I think when I think about Sirianni too, like I think of him as he seems like a great motivator. Like I think guys like him.
I agree,
and but. If you're a good motivator and you're not a great tactician, then you need people that are going to handle the tactical part of the game plan. And just being solely a motivator without like the tactician aspect of it, you're going to lose credibility with the locker room, and because they're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing, I think that's what's happened with the coordinators here, even though I think it was Johnson, right? He's the offensive coordinator. I think that was like kind of him and Jalen were tight.
Yeah, he's known him back since like high school or maybe even before that. Before high school, but he was the quarterback's coach last year. And Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate the move to give Johnson the shot. I didn't
Yeah.
think the offense was going to change that much. You had a quarterback coach who was with Jalen, knows Jalen, but clearly he can't call plays.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like if the defense knows what's coming before the play even happens. Like it's so predictable, so vanilla, no creativity, and they can't put up points. They can't score.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've had such a, like these blitzes come at them and it's just like they have no answers for them. Like they just don't.
They're awful at the blitz. Terrible. Like I don't know if that's an offensive line issue of picking up the blitz or if it's a Jalen thing, but they
Yeah.
cannot. They have no answer for the blitz
Yeah.
on either side. Because like I think Patricia's tried to blitz a little more,
Mhm.
and Desai I think blitzed a decent amount too. I know that was like a misconception. People think that they didn't. I think they blitzed more than people thought they did under Desai. But like even Patricia, he tries to blitz, they stink. Like whenever they blitz, they. Like their numbers are worse when they blitz than when they don't. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's on both sides of the ball. The blitzing is such an issue.
Yeah. And there's always that conversation, right? Like on the offensive side, especially with quarterbacks, like
Yeah.
whether or not, a pressure or like a pressure or a sack, how much of that falls on a quarterback. There's always that like debate of like how much do you weigh,
Yeah.
So, like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I certainly don't get paid enough
Right.
to figure out the answer to that. But if the Eagles want to give me a call, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, might as
I'd
chop
be
it up.
happy to give it a shot.
Exactly.
They're running a country club over there.
Exactly. I'm watching this national championship game. Have you paid attention to the
I have
college
not.
final?
I've
No?
not watched. No, what is happening
Michigan's
here?
up. Michigan's up 20-10. 10 minutes left in the third quarter, so ton of time.
Okay.
This Washington quarterback though can sling it. Penix,
Yeah.
kid's a
Yeah.
stud.
Yeah.
I'm a big Penix guy.
All right. Yeah.
So
He's I think his stock's falling a little bit in this draft, isn't it?
is it? I haven't looked at much of the rankings or anything like that yet.
Mhm.
But I was watching the game against who they play. Why am I drawing a blank on who they played? Wasn't Bama. The hell did they play in the first round?
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I don't know. But I was watching that game. He was slinging it. He was has an arm. I don't really watch a ton of college football, but he was slinging it.
I used to watch more than I used to watch more than I do now, and I think it has a lot to do with number one, it's just like kind of like time, but also like just like the whole. I don't know what the answer is for the college football playoff, but it's whatever they're doing now. I just don't think is it. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't seem.
Well, they're going to I think 12 teams next year.
12 teams. Okay,
I believe so. Yeah.
12 teams will be. That'll be better.
Yeah, I think it's a little much.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot, but it's better. I think it's better than 4.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I used to watch a lot more than I do, I do now. And so, but I haven't watched any of the game that I.
Yeah, a lot of time left, so I'll be watching it. It was Texas. That's who it was. I was drawing the blank.
So.
But yeah, you got anything else before we get out of here? Real quick, I wanted to pick your brain about it. We talked about it last week. So a couple weeks ago, the Sixers give Morey an extension. What was your thoughts about that extension?
Yeah, I think the Morey extension was, I think like after the Harding trade and that being such like a big part of their situation, especially it was such a large looming black cloud over the whole situation, right? Yep. I think he handled that. I think that return and then the team kind of coming together as well as they have to this point.
Mm-hmm. They look good.
Yeah, I think that was really the big driving force there. Had that not worked out or the Sixers looked worse than they do now, I don't know if that extension would have been coming down the pike as early as it did. But
yeah, that's the thing that was my thought. Is like it just seemed so early. They've had zero playoff success. Morey himself in his entire career really hasn't had much playoff success. I didn't understand it at all, but I guess, I guess with the Harden return and hiring what seems like the right coach,
right?
I guess you get it done. But
Yeah, and that's kind of like where I was at with it. I mean, his time in Houston was kind of a microcosm of Harden's whole
yep,
situation, where it was kind of like they were great regular season teams and things like that, but they weren't really. It didn't seem like they could ever get it done in the playoffs, and that's kind of been the Sixers motif here the last few years. And but I think like Nurse has been like such a good addition. He's been such a positive, like a net positive on the group. And then of course, like, all the other pieces that kind of trickled apart, like kind of scattered apart after the Harding trade, the impact it had on Tyrese Maxey having the
yep,
ball in his hands more. It really kind of like, I think it was all that chain of events that kind of played out the way that it did. I think that's why they went with the extension as early as they did. Maybe they would have waited had it not gone as well.
yeah.
But then again, too, it's like I don't even know where they would have went executive wise after Morey. I don't know what that would have looked like. Certainly,
Yeah, that becomes a whole different issue. It's like, do you clean house at that point? Like,
right?
do you rebuild at that point if you get another guy in here? Like,
Yeah. So
but
that would,
I'm intrigued. Like, I don't think the fan base is all in yet because of what's happened over the last couple of years, especially last
sure.
year. But like, they're playing really well. The fact they're playing this well and Embiid's playing this well, and they've been able to limit his minutes. Like, he just doesn't play all that much in the fourth quarter because they've been up so big in a lot of these
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
Like, I think I read he's on pace to not even be eligible for the MVP. That's how little he's played, and they're still winning games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm intrigued. Like, if they could still limit his minutes down the stretch, still win games, and have a healthy Joel Embiid into the playoffs, because that's kind of been the Achilles heel of their team for the last couple of years. Is like,
Yeah.
he hasn't been healthy. He's been banged up, and sure, he hasn't missed games in the playoffs, at least last year, but like, he's still banged up. It still affects him. So if you could have like a 95%, 90% Joel Embiid heading into the playoffs, I think it's huge. And Maury also said today that was it today or yesterday? Like, they expect to be extremely aggressive at the deadline. Like, they're going to try to do whatever they can to make this team a contender.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to be interesting because you think about the names that are floated out there: Zach Levine, Pascal Siakam, uh, and then there's like other depth pieces there as well, like Chicago. Like there's guys like Alex Caruso if they wanted to add another guard. Not that those guys are big stars or anything like that, but I think it's going to be, it's going to be interesting because those are kind of Levine and Siakam are the names that keep kind of floating out there. But I mean, like, there might be more names, bigger names that materialize
Yeah,
as the season kind of goes along. And I wonder if the Sixers swoop in on one of those. But it'll be really intriguing, especially because another thing is like Maxi's kind of like taking, like, he's gone up a level, and a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that he just has the ball in his hands more often. Does adding another ball dominant player, how does that change the complexion of the group? Then those guys have to learn how to play together. There's always like that kind of process, like a 2-3.5 week process where, guys kind of have to learn what the other one does. So it'll be interesting. I mean, like where they go with that. And like what names will come available. So, because I'm sure Siakam and Levine aren't going to be the only two big names.
yeah,
There's going to be some others that float out there. I don't know who they're going to be, but it'll be interesting to see who they end up being.
yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see it. You got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No final thoughts. I think we touched everything pretty as best we could here.
I'm still hurt.
yeah.
Cutter Gauthier is dead to me. Those are the fun. That might be the title of the episode.
Yeah,
Cutter Gauthier is dead to me.
That'll be a good one. Count your days, Cutter.
Yeah, exactly.
You've
Oh man,
made
it's so
an
frustrating.
enemy.
Yeah, the entire city hates you right now. You become like he might have surpassed Sidney Crosby in terms of like being hated by the city.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to quit on a group before you even get there. I mean, it's just
Right, yeah.
that's personal foul. You're done, pal. Like that.
Yeah, it's funny. Dom just texted me. Is like, I'm still hurt. He texted me saying, I'm still hurt, and then he said, What did he say? I don't remember the last time I felt this hurt about a player, and he hasn't even played a second in the NHL. Like that's how we all
Yeah.
feel. Like,
Yeah. And then like we didn't even touch on that, but like think about the entitlement
yep,
like of a kid who like you're not answering Danny Briere's phone calls.
all right.
Who do you think you are? Like,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like
we didn't talk about it when we were talking about it earlier, but like the last time I could remember this happening is like Adam Fox,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
when he was drafted by was it the Hurricanes or the Flames. He got traded from one to the other. I forget who was. I think he was drafted by the Flames, and then they
yeah,
traded him to Carolina because he said he didn't want to play for the Flames, and then he said he didn't want to play for Carolina either. The only place he wanted to play was in New York, so
right.
they ended up trading him to New York. But like, I don't remember if that was that messy where he's not like returning calls of the general manager of each. Like, I don't know how that played out, but
Yeah.
that's the last time I remember this kind of happening.
Yeah, there was like at least a dialogue going
Yeah,
on there. Like the way at least and that could be spin on the Flyers part, I don't know.
sure.
But they haven't come out and refuted any of that. Which would have been a good time to get out in front of it. I'm sure someone wanted to be first in kind of like grabbing the 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 belief of the public there. But yeah, I just thought to myself, like, what a what a weird kid. Like just
Yeah.
just like not and there were people online that were not as they weren't as he didn't come to training camp. He didn't come to rookie camp or something like that.
Which raised a, I don't know if red flags is the right answer, but people thought that was weird.
Yeah, people thought it was weird. And there was a lot of people saying I can't give the one person credit. I wish I could, but I didn't really have much of a thought on it at the time. I was like, oh, he's just not going to come. But like that, I mean, like that, maybe there was some stuff some people heard about him not wanting to come in. Maybe it goes back that far. Because I believe that was before the world championship thing.
That
And
would have been, when would that have been? Well, no, it would have been after. What would it not have been?
what it could have been. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
because the
the
Worlds was what, the
timeline.
summer, and I guess that would
Yeah.
have been in August. I guess that would have been like August, so
Yeah.
maybe right after Worlds
Yeah, it might have been right after.
ish. I could be messing the timeline
Yeah,
up
because
too.
I think maybe that's what they were saying, the Flyers were saying at the time was he had played a lot of hockey. So, you know, but I'm excited for Jamie Drysdale to come in here. I'm really
Yeah,
intrigued by that ability, and he brings an asset that the Flyers need. Not that Cutter didn't, but the Flyers are armed with some draft capital this year and could have more after the trade deadline. And they
yeah.
can
If I'm
move
not
up. And
mistaken, I don't have it in front of me. I think they have two firsts this year and a second, and then they have I think a first and 2 seconds next year, I believe.
yep, yep. And
So
yeah, so there is some draft capital there. And if they decide to move some pieces this year, they'll get more of that. And they'll be able to address that forward depth. And I think it's easier to find like a good top six forward centerman, what have you, than it is to find like an all-purpose number one D.
I agree 100%. It's just the injury thing. I just keep thinking about is like,
Yeah,
what does he turn into? Like,
right.
are we talking about a guy who's riddled with injuries through his career and doesn't ever reach his full potential, or are we reaching like at his potential? Like, I think you're looking at Alex Petrangelo. Like, I really do. Like, he reminds
Yeah,
me a lot of him.
yeah,
Um, it's just a matter of what are you gonna get? Like, and it's a
yeah,
conversation we're not going to really be able to have for another 4, 5, 6 years at
yeah,
least.
yeah. And then like there's like that whole like like the scale of the whole process, right? Like you had to wait for Cutter to get here.
Right.
Drysdale's going to come here and he's going to play
Yep.
like next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like all of a sudden, like, does it hurt the long term planning? Maybe, maybe not. But, at least Drysdale is going to play right away and he's still young. So he can actually contribute to the group right now.
Yeah.
And that's, and two, it's like not to run down Cutter, but I mean, like, he's not a complete product either,
No.
and um, I don't know. In Anaheim, there kind of seems to be a little bit of a. They brought in Pat Verbeek to run the show there,
Mm-hmm.
and Verbeek's kind of seen as a hard ass. But like it was kind of before that, it kind of seemed like they were running a country club, and guys like
Right.
Zegras and all that were kind of just doing what they wanted. So, and we know that that's not a way to build a competitive team. Not today.
That's why I was so excited to see Cutter here, is because like with that shot and with the talent, like I was really excited to watch him. But one of John Tortorella's main like coaching styles or coaching philosophies is like, playing with the puck's important, but it's almost more important to play without the puck.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, Cutter's biggest weakness is playing away from the puck.
Yeah.
And I think Torts could have made him just that much more fantastic by making him adapt his game to not only play with the puck, because he's great with that, but also learn how to play without the puck as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, like the player has to be receptive of that.
Yep.
And if this is his attitude, I don't know that I don't know that he is. He may or may not be. I don't know.
Yep.
Well,
I think we've beaten that horse enough. So we're gonna get out of here, Mark. Thank you for hopping on. When you jumping back into the water cooler talk, you got a lot to talk about now.
Yeah. We're I gotta get my my schedule back together here. Water cooler talk will be back for sure. We'll definitely get that going again. I'm gonna have a show for I do plan to have a show for the Stadium Series game between the Flyers and Devils. So we'll do like a little special on that.
You plan on going up for it or no?
No, I'm probably gonna watch it at home.
I thought about it. I was like,
yeah,
I don't want to go up there. I'm good.
We tried to get that trip together. Remember?
Yeah.
It was,
I thought about it.
Yeah, it was tempting,
Yep.
But yeah, so I'll watch that at home. But we'll get a special for that together. We'll do a trade. I want to do a trade deadline special show.
Oh, nice.
As well.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll kind of do like they kind of do on Sportsnet. We'll do like a trade special kind of thing. And all the stuff over at firedupsports.com. I have the Ramos Roundup columns. We'll do more Flyers. We'll write about Flyers tonight. I will have an Eagles kind of end of season kind of thing, depending on how this goes.
Okay.
So on Saturday, so I'll close that up and I'll do that.
Awesome. And then you'll be on with Don Drunk on Broad on Saturday morning, correct?
Yep. I'll be on Drunk on Broad to talk Sixers and Flyers on Saturday morning. So you want to make sure you check that out too,
absolutely.
With Don. That's a regular, like it's become like a regular thing. So we really
I wish I could do the Saturday morning thing. It's like on Saturday mornings with 3 kids, my house is an absolute shit show.
I bet, man. I bet.
It's easy to do this thing when they're all upstairs asleep.
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't imagine right now.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Or joining me. We will see everybody. I guess we won't have a show next Monday because Eagles will be playing. I think we'll probably do it on Tuesday. So we will see everybody next Tuesday. And hopefully this isn't the final time I'm saying this. Go Birds.